The autumn sun cast long golden stripes across the sprawling campus of Westbridge University, one of the most prestigious and influential private universities in the United States. Students hurried between classes with coffee cups, backpacks, and determination in their eyes, all hoping to carve out their own success in the world. Among them was Savannah Carter, a quiet yet striking young woman with sharp green eyes, smooth brown skin, and long, wavy hair often tied loosely behind her shoulders. Savannah was known for being reserved, polite, brilliant, and always prepared, but she rarely talked about her personal life. No one knew much about her family, only that she had been raised by a foster family in Montana and came to Westbridge on a full academic scholarship. What the campus didn't know, what even administration didn't know, was that Savannah Carter was not her real name. She had another identity, one purposely hidden until the day she turned 21. But that part of the story was buried for now. What mattered today was that Savannah was a senior, months away from graduating with honors, and her dream was finally within reach. A spot in the elite Westbridge Innovators program, a pipeline into top companies and graduate schools. Everything was on track, until the day she met Professor Adrian Holt. He was a charismatic man in his mid-40s, impeccably dressed, with the kind of confidence that made students lean in when he spoke. His class, Advanced Behavioral Economics, was famously difficult, but Savannah had been excited. She loved anything that challenged her mind. But by week 3, the excitement had faded. Professor Holt's eyes lingered too long. His compliments were too personal. His jokes directed at her were inappropriate, but subtle enough that calling him out would make her look sensitive. Savannah kept her distance, completed her assignments, and focused on her work. Then came the moment everything changed. It was late afternoon when Professor Holt asked Savannah to stay after class. Students filtered out, some throwing her sympathetic looks. Holt's reputation was whispered about but never officially challenged. Savannah approached his desk cautiously. "You wanted to see me, Professor." Holt leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. His eyes scanned her face with a familiarity that made her stomach churn. "Savannah, you're an exceptional student, one of the brightest I've seen in years." "Thank you," she said, not trusting the warmth behind his smile. "But," he continued, "your last paper, it didn't reach the standard I expected from you." Her eyebrows knitted. "My last paper, I scored a 92. "I gave you a 92, he corrected, lowering his voice, "because I wanted to speak to you first." Her breath stilled. Holt rose slowly, walking around his desk until he stood uncomfortably close. "You're brilliant, Savannah, the kind of student with potential, and I have a lot of influence here." His voice dropped further, making her skin crawl. "If we establish a more personal understanding, I could guarantee your placement in the Innovators program. Straight A's, strong recommendations, doors you can't even imagine opening for you." Savannah stepped back. "I'm not interested in anything like that." His smile cracked, revealing disappointment, and something darker. "You should reconsider. Opportunities like this don't come often." Savannah's voice was steady, though her heart hammered. "I'd rather earn my grade honestly." Holt's eyes chilled instantly. "Suit yourself." He returned to his desk, dismissed her with a flick of his hand, and began typing as though she no longer existed. Savannah walked out trembling, not from fear, but from anger so deep she could taste it. She never imagined how far Holt would go. 8 weeks later, the grades were posted. Savannah found her name, her finger tracing across the spreadsheet, then stopping cold. Betrayal Economics, final grade, F. Her breath left her body. The students around her whispered. How did she fail? That's impossible. Savannah, no way. She had scored above 90 on every exam, she had perfect attendance, she had done extra credit. She sprinted to Holt's office. The door was open. He looked up casually as she entered. "Savannah," he said as though greeting an old friend, "to what do I owe the surprise?" Her hands clenched. "Why did you fail me?" Holt sighed dramatically and pulled up her file on his computer. "It appears," he said coldly, "that your final project was plagiarized." Savannah's throat tightened. "Plagiarized? That's impossible. I wrote every word myself." "I disagree." He rotated the screen so she could see a fabricated similarity report. and plagiarism is an automatic failing grade. Her stomach twisted. He had manufactured the entire report. "You know I didn't do this," she said through clenched teeth. Holt leaned forward, voice dripping with full sympathy. "You made a choice, Savannah. Actions have consequences." Her eyes widened. "This is because I rejected you." He smiled, careful. Accusing a faculty member of misconduct without proof is grounds for academic suspension. Savannah felt the floor tilt beneath her. She left his office in silence, not broken but burning. This wasn't just an unfair grade. This was a declaration of war. But what Holt didn't know, what no one except Savannah herself knew, was that he had just picked a fight with the one student he should never have crossed. Savannah hurried back to her apartment, locked the door and pulled out a small wooden box from the back of her closet. She sat on her bed, hands shaking as she opened it. Inside were documents, letters, pictures, the truth of who she really was. At the top of the pile was a birth certificate. Name: Savannah Elena Westbridge. Father: Jonathan Michael Westbridge. Mother: Rebecca Carter. Jonathan Westbridge, the late founder of Westbridge University. One of the wealthiest educational philanthropists in the country. The man whose death 10 years ago left a mysterious gap in the university's leadership. The board said he had no heirs, no remaining family. That had been a lie Savannah's mother had begged her to keep until she turned 21. "If they know who you are," her mother had warned, "everyone will want something from you: money, influence, access. But when you come of age, you will have the choice to claim your name in your own time." Savannah had planned to wait until graduation to reveal her identity to the board, to honor her father's legacy by succeeding on her own merit. But Holt had just shattered her academic future. He didn't know she had the power to dismantle everything he believed made him untouchable. Savannah closed her eyes. "This ends now." Savannah reached for her phone and dialed a number she had never used before, her father's old attorney, Martin Hale. He picked up on the first ring. "Savannah," his voice was gentle, warm, familiar. He had promised her mother he would only step in if Savannah asked for help. "It's time," she said. "I need you." "I'll be there in 3 hours." 3 hours later, an elegant black car pulled up outside her apartment. Martin stepped out, a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and wise eyes. He hugged her softly. "I knew this day would come, but I didn't expect it to start with anger in your eyes." She explained everything: Holt's proposition, the retaliation, the failing grade. Martin's expression shifted from concern to icy fury. "He chose the wrong student," he murmured, "and the wrong family." He pulled out a leather portfolio. "Your father anticipated corruption like this. He left instructions for how you could assume your rightful place when you were ready." Savannah blinked. "Rightful place?" Martin smiled subtly. "Savannah, you are not just his daughter. You are the primary heir to the entire Westbridge estate, including 47% ownership of the university." Her breath caught. "You mean, sir?" "Yes," he said. "When we walk into that boardroom, they will not see a student." His voice sharpened. "They will see their future owner." Savannah spent the next 3 hours gathering evidence: emails Holt had sent, copies of her assignments, timestamps, her own academic records. She saved everything. Martin reviewed the files with a critical eye. "This is enough to bury him professionally," he said, "but your story will bury him publicly." Savannah exhaled slowly. "Good." "You're ready?" Martin asked. She nodded. "Then tomorrow morning," he said, "we visit the Board of Trustees." Savannah went to sleep with a fire burning inside her, a fire Holt had ignited. He thought he had destroyed her future. He had no idea he had awakened her identity. And when morning came, Savannah put on a navy blue blazer, tied her hair into a sleek ponytail, and walked toward the administration building not as the quiet student everyone thought she was, but as Savannah Elena Westbridge, the hidden heir, determined to bring a corrupt professor to his knees. Morning sunlight washed over the grand stone facade of the Westbridge University Administration Building as Savannah stepped out of the car. The air felt crisp, sharp, and full of consequences. Students were rushing across campus, unaware that their quiet classmate, the girl they thought was just another hard-working senior, was seconds away from rewriting the hierarchy of the entire university. Martin Hale walked beside her, matching her pace with calm authority. His black suit, subtle silver cufflinks and slow deliberate stride gave him the presence of a man used to winning. Savannah drew strength from that. She didn't feel like the timid student who had left Professor Holt's office days earlier. Today she felt taller, sharper, carved from something deeper, a legacy awakening inside her. They entered through the front doors, where the receptionist greeted them politely until Martin slid an embossed file across the counter. The woman glanced at it, froze, then looked up at Savannah with wide eyes. In the span of seconds, her expression shifted from routine courtesy to stunned awareness. "Of course," she said quickly, "the Board of Trustees will see you immediately." It was the same board that believed the founder, Jonathan Westbridge, left behind no heirs. The same board that had made decisions based on that false assumption. The lie had lasted 10 years until today. Savannah followed the receptionist down the hall, her heels clicking rhythmically against polished marble floors. Her heartbeat matched the sound. She wasn't here to seek pity. She wasn't here to beg for fairness. She was here to reveal exactly who she was and why Professor Holt's abuse of power would become the spark that changed everything. The double doors opened into a long mahogany conference room. 12 board members sat around an oval table, their conversations dying mid-sentence when they saw her. Several exchanged confused glances. Some frowned, trying to place her. A few looked irritated that a student had been escorted into their space. Then Martin cleared his throat, and the room fell fully silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth but edged with steel, "I present to you the legal heir of Jonathan Michael Westbridge, Savannah Elena Westbridge." The silence snapped. A few gasped. One man's pen slipped from his hand and clattered onto the table. The chairwoman, a woman in her 60s named Dr. Elaine Morgan, leaned forward with trembling fingers. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Jonathan had no children." Savannah stepped forward, calm but commanding. "He did. I am his daughter. My mother kept my identity secret at his request until I turned 21. I have come of age. And I am here today not to take over yet, but because a professor in this university abused his authority, retaliated against me, and tried to destroy my academic future." Martin placed the file on the table and opened it. Photocopies, legal documents, DNA confirmation letters, old photographs of Jonathan holding a toddler Savannah. Everything slid across the smooth wooden surface like evidence in a courtroom trial. The board shuffled through the papers in stunned silence. Dr. Morgan's hands trembled slightly as she examined a copy of Savannah's birth certificate, the founder's signature clearly visible. "This can't be fabricated," Dr. Morgan murmured. "It isn't," Martin said. "I handled Mr. Westbridge's estate personally, and now Savannah is ready to claim the protections that her father intended for her." Savannah's voice was steady as she added, "But before that I need justice. A professor here propositioned me. When I refused, he failed me out of retaliation. He fabricated a plagiarism report. He sabotaged my academic standing." Shock rippled across the room. One board member, a stern older man named Victor Hale, no relation to Martin, leaned back in disbelief. "Are you accusing one of our faculty members of extortion and academic fraud?" Savannah met his gaze directly. "No, I'm revealing the truth of what he did, and I have proof." She set down her own neatly organized folder. Emails Holt had sent with inappropriate undertones, assignment receipts and timestamps, the original documents showing her high grades prior to the final, and a detailed written statement describing the meeting where he propositioned her with offers of better grades and future opportunities. The room felt colder after she finished speaking. Dr. Morgan tapped the table lightly. "Martin, what are you proposing?" Martin didn't hesitate. Immediate suspension of Professor Adrian Holt pending a formal investigation, a review panel assembled within 48 hours, restoration of Savannah's academic record, correction of her final grade based on the objective work she completed, and a campus-wide notice that Westbridge University will not tolerate abuse of power under any circumstances. Some board members exchanged worried looks, but several nodded in agreement. Another board member, a younger man named Dr. James Ellery, cleared his throat. "Miss Westbridge," he said slowly, struggling to adjust to the name, You should know that if this becomes public, it will impact the entire institution. The press, donors, accreditation boards. Savannah interrupted gently. I don't want publicity, I want accountability. But, Dr. Ellery continued cautiously, once your identity is revealed, it won't stay quiet. She inhaled deeply. She had thought about that all night. Once she claimed her name, the world would come for her, reporters, opportunists, distant relatives, even students who suddenly wanted to be her best friend. But she also knew something else. I'm not hiding anymore, she said softly. My father built this university to give people opportunities. He believed in fairness, but if someone like Professor Holt is allowed to stay, then everything he stood for means nothing. Dr. Morgan closed the folder slowly and looked around the room, all in favor of moving forward with disciplinary action. Hands rose one by one, some hesitantly, some firmly, some almost relieved. When the last hand went up, Savannah exhaled. Dr. Morgan turned to her. Savannah, we are truly sorry for what you experienced. You have our full support, and welcome home. The words hit deeper than she expected. Home. It was a word she hadn't associated with any place in years, but something inside her softened, and for the first time since Holt failed her, she felt the faintest pulse of safety. But the war wasn't over, it was only beginning. Martin escorted Savannah out of the building just as students poured into the courtyard. None of them realized what had just shifted in the university's power structure. As they crossed the lawn, Savannah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Holt's voice came through, low and venomous. You think you've won something. You walked into my class, acted like you were better than everyone. Now you're playing victim. Her jaw tightened. You did this to yourself, Professor. You're going to regret crossing me, he spat. I've been here 15 years, I know people, I can end. Savannah hung up mid-sentence. Martin raised an eyebrow. I'm assuming that was Holt. He's panicking, she said. As he should be, Martin replied. Men like him only understand consequences when they're cornered. Savannah looked out over the campus. Students laughed and chatted, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface, unaware that Savannah wasn't just a victim seeking justice, she was someone reclaiming a legacy. She spent the rest of the day preparing statements, sorting documents, meeting with student advocates to request formal academic review, and working with Martin to finalize the legal protections her father had put in place for her. By evening, whispers were spreading across campus. Did you hear Professor Holt got called into the dean's office? Something big is happening. Savannah Carter, is she the girl he failed? I heard there was a complaint. I heard he's getting suspended. Rumors twisted into stories faster than the truth could travel. Savannah tried to keep her head down, but she could feel eyes on her, some sympathetic, some curious, some judgmental. She made it back to her apartment just before sunset. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to breathe slowly. Her room felt smaller but safer. She sat on her bed, letting the quiet settle. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text from Martin. Final decision will be announced tomorrow. Rest, you've done enough for one day. M. She set the phone aside and leaned back, letting her mind drift. Memories of her father surfaced. His laugh, the way he used to tuck her hair behind her ears, the way he'd tell her, "You're brave, Savannah, never forget that." She wondered what he would think of her now. Probably that she was finally stepping into her own strength. Night deepened, and exhaustion tugged at her. She fell asleep with her father's photo on her nightstand, unaware that the next day would be even more explosive than this one. When the sun rose, Westbridge University woke up to news so shocking that students dropped their coffees, professors froze mid-sentence, and social feeds exploded in real time. The war had reached Holt, and he was about to learn exactly who he had crossed. Morning sunlight spilled over the campus like a spotlight the next day, but Westbridge University woke buzzing with an energy that felt nothing like a normal school morning. Something was happening, something big, and the rumor mill had been grinding all night. Savannah felt it before she even stepped outside. Her phone was vibrating non-stop with notifications she ignored. Her stomach was tight, her palms warm, but her expression stayed composed as she headed across campus. She knew today was the day Holt's fate would be sealed. Martin called just as she reached the administration building. "They're holding an emergency session," he said. "The review panel was unanimous." "What happens now?" she asked, voice calm but her heart skipping. "The dean and the board have summoned Professor Holt to give him the results. You don't need to be present for that part, but they want you in the follow-up meeting at 10. Savannah thanked him and hung up, feeling a mixture of relief and rising anticipation. The corrupt professor who had tried to ruin her was about to face consequences he never imagined existed. Students glanced her way as she walked. Some smiled cautiously, others just watched. There was an unspoken awareness that something tied to her name, or the name they thought they knew, was unraveling behind closed doors. Inside, the hallways were quieter than usual. Faculty members spoke in hushed tones. A janitor paused mid-mop, looking as though he'd overheard something shocking in the staff lounge. "Morning," Savannah offered softly. He blinked, then nodded. "You're the girl they're all talking about, aren't you?" "I guess I am." "Good luck," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "Thank you." Upstairs, she waited on a quiet corridor outside the boardroom. The door was closed, but voices seeped through, muffled, tense, sharp. "Abuse of power. Fabricated evidence. This is unacceptable. Reputation of the institution." Then, unmistakably, Holt's voice rose above the rest. "That girl lied. She's angry because I didn't give her special treatment. This is ridiculous." Someone cut him off sharply. "Professor Holt, the evidence is irrefutable." Another voice, stern and authoritative, followed. "You were caught manipulating her gradebook logs yourself." Savannah closed her eyes, heart steady, pulse slow. After everything she had endured in silence, hearing the truth spoken aloud in there felt like a weight lifting from her chest. The shouting escalated, Holt's voice cracking with disbelief. "You can't do this. I've given 15 years here. I deserve." "You deserve nothing after what you've done," someone snapped back. A moment later, the door swung open. Holt appeared, face red, jaw clenched, hands shaking with rage. He froze when he saw Savannah standing there. "You," he hissed, "you think you've won." Savannah didn't flinch. "I didn't have to win anything. The truth did that for me." "You'll regret this," Holt spat. "You have no idea who I know." Martin's voice came from behind her as he stepped out of a side office. "And he has no idea who you are." Holt glared at both of them before storming off, nearly knocking into a secretary who stepped back in shock. As he disappeared down the hallway, the air felt lighter, like a storm cloud finally breaking. Martin held the door open. "They're ready for you." Inside, the board members were no longer confused. They looked composed, serious, and unified in their decision. Dr. Morgan gestured for Savannah to take a seat at the head of the table. It was the same seat her father once used during board meetings. Savannah sat, heart thudding softly. Dr. Morgan began speaking gently. "Savannah, Professor Holt has been terminated, effective immediately. His credentials are being revoked, his faculty housing vacated, and his access to campus shut off." Another board member added, "Your academic record has been corrected, your true final grade has been restored, and we will issue an internal statement affirming that no student will ever face retaliation again." Savannah nodded, feeling a surge of relief. But Dr. Morgan wasn't finished. "We also have a more significant announcement." The room felt still. "You are the 47% heir to Westbridge University, and you have full legal rights to assume your father's seat on this board whenever you choose. We want you to know we welcome you, not just as a student who suffered injustice, but as the future of this institution." The words hit her with a weight she hadn't expected. She had spent so long hiding, shrinking herself, avoiding attention. Now they were offering her a seat at the table her father once led. Her voice came out softly. "Thank you, I'm not ready to take the seat yet, but I will one day, and when I do I'll make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else." Dr. Morgan nodded with respect. "That is exactly what your father would have wanted." When the meeting ended, Savannah stepped out into the hallway just as dozens of notifications exploded on her phone. Her inbox, social media, university email, everything was buzzing non-stop. A message from the dean. A message from the student union. A message from campus news asking for comment. Even classmates she barely knew were trying to reach her. She walked outside and felt hundreds of eyes on her. Students stood clustered around phones reading the just-released university statement. Professor Adrian Holt has been terminated for professional misconduct and academic fraud. Westbridge University stands with its students and reaffirms its commitment to equity and integrity. No mention of Savannah's identity, not yet. They kept her secret as she requested. But the story itself spread like wildfire. She headed toward the science quad where students had begun to gather. Whispers trailed in her wake. "That's her. Savannah, the one Holt failed. I heard she brought proof. She's the reason he got fired. Good for her, someone needed to stop that guy years ago. She's brave." Savannah kept walking, her expression calm but her heart swelling. For years she had stayed invisible on purpose. Now people were seeing her not because she wanted attention, but because she stood up for herself when it mattered. A girl from her economics class stepped forward hesitantly. "Savannah, thank you. He made me uncomfortable too. I never said anything. I wish I did." Savannah touched her arm gently. "You're safe now, and you don't need to blame yourself." A boy standing behind her added, "You did what none of us could. You actually got him held accountable." Savannah shook her head. "No, I didn't do it alone. The board acted. The truth mattered." But inside she knew it was more than that. She hadn't just been a student wronged. She was the founder's daughter, reclaiming her legacy. Later that afternoon she met Martin in the courtyard. He handed her an envelope. "Your father wrote this for you," he said. "It was sealed until the day you claimed your name." Savannah stared at it, her throat tightening. Her father's handwriting curved across the front. She opened it slowly. "My dearest Savannah, if you are reading this, you have stepped into the world not as the little girl I raised, but as the woman I always knew you'd become. You are brave, you are strong, and this university will one day be yours to guide if you choose. Use your power with wisdom, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and never let anyone diminish the fire that burns within you. With all my love, Dad." Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the letter to her chest, breathing deeply. "Are you all right?" Martin asked softly. "Yes," she whispered, "I am now." As the day wound down, a warm breeze swept through campus. Students wandered in small groups, talking about Holt, about justice, about change. And tucked within the chatter, Savannah could hear her name, not with pity, not with shock, but with admiration. She walked to the center of campus, the spot where a tall bronze statue of her father stood. She had passed it for years without ever letting herself acknowledge him fully. Now she stood before it, seeing him, truly seeing him, for the first time. "Hi, Dad," she whispered. "I did it, I stood up, and I'm not hiding anymore." A sense of peace settled around her. She wasn't just a student. She wasn't just a survivor. She wasn't just the daughter of the founder. She was the future of Westbridge. As the sun dipped behind the campus towers, casting golden shadows across the courtyard, Savannah turned away from the statue with renewed purpose. Her story wasn't just one of revenge. It was one of reclaiming her identity, protecting her future, and rising above the darkness that tried to break her. And as she walked forward, taller, stronger, and finally free, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Her father would be proud.